For the Democratic Party, the developing internal self-scout is an assessment of why they lost young men so badly in November. It was one of the bigger demographic shifts against Democrats compared to 2020. In 2020, young men went 60-40 to Biden. By 2024, the numbers nearly flipped. Trump pulled 56% of them. Nate Silver has an interesting analysis why on his Substack, considering a factor I haven't seen analyzed as thoroughly. Mental health. Sure, we often joke about the crazy, but is this actually clinical? Silver notes that per many polls, conservatives and to a lesser extent moderates report significantly better states of mental health than liberals do. Silver writes that perhaps young men aren't really looking for the helping hand that Democrats are trying to identify. Maybe they just see Democrats as too neurotic and perhaps constraining on their opportunity to compete and reap the rewards of their work. In other words, this exodus isn't strictly political, like young men care about issue X and want solution Y. This is primal. Democrats are a party that contradicts the natural male role in almost every way. You want to be a provider? Well, they've got a tax against that. You want to be a protector? Hold on there. Those 30-round mags are banned. Oh, you'd like to build something? Well, maybe someday, but there are years of permits and regulatory hurdles first. And of course, that doesn't mean that Republicans are man's best friend either, but especially for Democrats, these individual political issues are really just proxies for the more fundamental one. It's a party of giant pussies, or crazy pussies, if the polling is to be believed. But you don't even need all the expensive polling to figure that out anyway. You could have just asked Clay Travis.
Basically summing it up, Democrats are pussies. There are no masculine men in the Democrat Party right now.
This ideological mental health gap that Silver is talking about isn't a new discovery. This has been known for years or decades. And it's a finding consistent in almost every poll that asks. Conservatives report mental fitness, liberals report mental problems. But we should exercise due diligence and question the reliability of these numbers. These are poll responses, so they are generally self-reports. Hey, are you crazy? Why, yes, sir, I am. Even if that statement is true, you are paradoxically relying on the testimony of a crazy person. And often these polls aim for external verification, phrasing questions like, has a doctor ever told you that you're deranged? But still, we rely on the poll respondent to confirm or deny, not the doctor himself. The point is, both sides of the ideological spectrum have some potential reason to misrepresent. Maybe conservatives want to appear strong, so they underreport their mental health conditions. Maybe liberals want some victim cred or some oppression point or some piece of sympathy, so they overreport. Or maybe the findings are just accurate. The ideological mental health gap is remarkably consistent across polls and polling firms. So if it's all a product of lies, these lies are very resilient. And I don't think it's lying anyway. I think that's the wrong way to describe it. These are defaults of perspective. These poll responses are a reflection of where your ideological center causes you to look generally. In April, political science professors from Yale and Tufts released a study on the topic. Do conservatives really have better mental well-being than liberals? They start with that same premise. Decades of studies show that conservatives self-report better mental health than liberals do, and they consider several ideological defaults that may explain why. Conservatism is correlated with traits associated with better mental health and well-being: religious faith, patriotism, marriage, higher earnings, and conservatives tend to be older. Liberals are younger, less religious, less likely to marry, more likely to belong to socially ostracized groups, and, perhaps crucially, they are more engaged in politics. They're more likely to find meaning in political activism, which correlates negatively with well-being. But maybe there are some other noise factors explaining these findings the authors consider, so they control for other things like demographics, socioeconomics, or recent personal experiences that may more readily explain your mental health than your political viewpoint does. And that check reduces the gap some, but no matter how they control, political ideology is a strong predictor of self-reported mental health condition. But come on, is it really that conservatives are mentally healthier, or Are we just framing this question incorrectly? The authors try a different approach. What if we evaluate mood instead? When we look at mood by ideology, well, then there is no gap. Conservatives and liberals are equally happy or angry, depending on what's going on or when you ask them. But the problem with that analysis, of course, is that mood and mental health are similar, but not the same thing. I might be angry and perfectly healthy. I might be happy based on a hallucination. For example, just personally, since becoming a dad, my mood generally has changed. I'm more stressed. There's a lot to get done, so I often get tired, which can make me feel frustrated or sometimes, even down. I feel the weight of that responsibility. Does that mean I'm mentally unwell? No. It means I have something to worry about. It means I have a reason to care. It means I have a very apparent purpose when I get up every morning, even if I didn't get enough sleep the night before. Stress is not inherently a bad thing. Stress is how everything that matters was built. Likewise, anger or any other perceivably negative emotion is not inherently bad either. Anger at or about what is what distinguishes whether that emotion is healthy or not. If there is truth to this ideological mental health gap, and I believe that there is, it's not about how one feels, positively or negatively. It's about where one looks to evaluate the world and its challenges. The study outright says it, though in terms I don't think are precisely correct. It reads, conservatism is a system-justifying ideology that seeks to rationalize the existing political, economic, and social order. Liberals are less inclined to rationalize inequality in that way, recognizing that there are factors outside of one's control that affect outcomes, and that hard work alone may not be enough to achieve a positive outcome. The reason I say that's not precise is because I think it's too focused on the political term inequality. These are really different ways of viewing and evaluating the natural state and order of the world. What that paragraph says more generally is that conservatives look at the world, observing the way it operates and seeking to conform to those rules. Liberals tend to view the state of the world and its rules as unjust, perhaps even seeking to take control of those rules themselves. The problem is, we're not talking about the kind of rules that are controllable or changeable. We're not talking about political questions like whether you should be allowed to skateboard on the sidewalk or not. We're talking about the natural rules of the world, like gravity or the sunrise, or yes, moral truth. These are God concepts. What that paragraph describes is two different ways a person can cast his default gaze or pay his default attention, the perspective from which he establishes his general viewpoint. One is inward and upward. That's the conservative viewpoint. The other is outward and downward, the liberal viewpoint. So what do I mean by that? Well, when I say inward and upward, what I mean is first defaulting to evaluate what you have done to contribute to a problem and what you can do to change it, self-scrutinizing to fix yourself first, with reference upward in recognition that there are rules over you that you must follow if you'd like to be happy and successful. God is not some magical wizard imaginary friend in the sky. He's the architect of the rules you'd be wise to observe and follow, and you can't rewrite those rules. If you try, you're going to have a very bad time. In contrast, looking outward and downward blames others first. Everything you don't like is someone else's fault, so why even bother trying to fix it? And why fix yourself when you're not the problem anyway? And likewise, because everyone else is the problem, you look down upon them. You are their moral superior. If only you could write all the rules that others must obey, well, then the world would be a much better place. And I know that is a very broad simplification. Of course, I'm not saying that all conservatives are godly philosopher kings, or that all liberals are degenerate scapegoaters, or that there aren't tendencies of both present in either group. However, I do think one ideology lends itself to the inward and upward perspective much more easily and naturally to positive effects for the individual and society. One is a world of order and objective universal truth. The other is nonsensical chaos where each person has his own truth. One is a view that seeks to understand the rules. The other is a view that rejects the rules by default. One is a view that believes there are better and worse ways to live, lifestyles closer to our humanly purpose here on Earth, and lifestyles that stray from it. The other is a view that believes that question is relative. There is no moral truth. There's just what you make of it. Is it really any wonder that people are happier and mentally stronger when they believe in a higher power and a fundamental purpose for their lives and a set of rules that will be rewarding if followed? Is it really any wonder that people are sadder and mentally weaker when they believe in nothing but themselves, and eventually not even that, because after all, they're only here from cosmic coincidence, so who really cares if their lives are lived well or not? As though we even have the criteria to make that judgment anyway. When you have a map, you make it through the woods happy and healthy because you had a great hike. When you're lost in that same forest, you're terrified and scrambling for survival. That is the difference between these two competing views. It's not just that one feels good or tricks you into some false comfort, it's that it's true. There is an objective set of rules. There is an objective order. There is a map to the forest, and you do better when you try to follow it instead of trying to control or redraw it. And ironically, when you are lost in that forest, there's only one way out: brute strength, toughness, bravery, and the humility to pray. Traditionally, masculine traits. Democrats have it backward. They think they can save men with handouts X, Y, or Z. Men don't want to be saved. They want to save. They don't want to be won. They want to win. They want to slay the dragon and win the princess. The problem is there are fewer and fewer princesses worth winning anymore. Instead of cheering for their knight in shining armor, a lot of these women are trying to become men anyway, and the ones that remain often want to lecture men for their brutality in dragon slaying and vote to ban their swords and steal their treasure. For Democrats to earn any male votes back, they'll have to reverse on those ideological tendencies. They'll have to search for what's true instead of trying to control what's true. Instead of condemning male energy as toxic or patriarchal or antiquated or obsolete, they'll have to assume, no, I bet that energy exists for some natural reason, some natural necessity even, and I bet there will be significant consequences if we deny or erase that truth. Perhaps an impossible challenge, but they will have to confront it because, as the studies and the polls show, if it's not God, and it's not family, and it's not country, if you can't save your party, well, what else do you have? Just kidding, of course. If you put your faith and purpose in a political party, you already have nothing. Your whole life is a mirage. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on X. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chatting my live streams as live on Wednesday and Sunday nights. Looking forward to it. Come on. Hey, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, that means you probably found some value in the video. If you found some value in the video, please consider supporting my material. You can do that one time or recurring for as little as $1 a month. It not only helps me sustain, but it helps me pay the people who make my videos possible. Linked in the description for you, mattchristiansenmedia.com/support. Thanks for listening.